sitting with in the office just now, gone from regular agronomy salesman to VP of agronomy.
Nothing's changed.
It's his fault.
Just middle management now.
Now he's, and Bob, who had been out here over the years, if you guys remember him, he was here before. Bob was a great guy, but Bob chose to retire. And then they put Tim in his place, and we're all very happy with that. And along with us, of course, is Michael Stake. And a lot of you guys have met Michael and know Michael. Michael's from somewhere way up north, I think, where they take the ice houses off and plant corn on the same day.
That's about it. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Michael is the field rep for this area. We have a new man, Michael Meyer, right Meyer. There he is. He's QLF Agronomy in Iowa. So he's going to be helping me down there.
Yep.
Steve, as you know, I need a lot of help everywhere. I'm getting more into delegation than I ever was. You were always So we'll just let these guys go. And sorry, Jim. I seem to have trained you if I remember.
With that, if you have any questions, feel free to just raise your hand and stop these guys to ask any questions. That's what we're here for. So.
That's right. It should be more of a discussion than it is.
There's a lot of experience in the room. So, who's been working with our products? Show of hands. Most everybody, isn't it? So, what keeps you coming back for this information? The steak? This used to be a beef meeting, didn't it? Right? Okay. Well, QLF Agronomy is gonna pick up the slack and tab on this one tonight. We appreciate you coming out for this. I think I hope the reason you're here is to kind of get more information, see how we're progressing as a company, and we're developing a fertilizer company within a very well-run, family-owned feed company. And a little bit about my background. I didn't go looking for this title or position. I kind of ended up here. I have more of an applied experience in the field of agronomy and more on soil and plant nutrition. So any questions on crop protection, I'm going to defer to someone else in the room. So it's kind of an interesting path because, this kind of topics, it's a message that's maybe overdone a little bit at times. People want to have educational meetings and call them symposiums, and we're out here manufacturing products and we're trying to sell them. I think the big picture is with the carbon-based approach in farming, we put some things together that you're going to be able to take advantage of and show you how to do it. I've learned an immense amount of knowledge and experience in just the last 3 years of my life. So I've had the privilege of meeting a lot of interesting people along the way, and when I ask a lot of questions, I sincerely want to educate myself on, hey, what do you think is happening when we do boost with nitrogen? So I think that the stuff that we're putting together for you folks is you do know that if you want to get your soils more resilient, that's probably a better way to look at it than calling it soil health, because there's not a perfect environment out there, and you got to make a lot of decisions that you got to make a living at this too. So definitely want to head in the right direction. But how fitting is a paragraph like this? A lot of these ties are tied to livestock. Your livelihoods are tied to livestock, and they're tied to soils. But isn't it interesting when you read that about, instead of a cow's stomach, you're dealing with a rhizosphere? I mean, that's where all the interaction takes place between all your efforts and your plant's productivity. And just reading that word for word, nothing does it better than microbes. And so, hopefully by the end of this, you're going to understand that Boost isn't just about feeding bugs in the soil, right? And you guys have spent some time with Michael and Tim and Jim, and you understand that there's a lot more to this than just getting bugs excited. But there's so many parallels between what QLF has been doing for 41 years and now what we're doing in the soils. So if you think about this nutrient called carbon, what is it? I mean, is it just a fraction of your organic matter? Is it leonardite ore? Is it bad coal? Is it sugar? Carbon is something that you guys manage every year for your livelihoods. You're a steward of carbon, and we're always being watched, like, how much carbon footprint's out there on that steak we're going to eat tonight, We want to manage carbon better because it is the driving mineral that keeps biological systems going. So what's fun about this letter LCBF, that was chosen on purpose, not by accident. Liquid carbon-based fertilizer is really right for the times because people are looking for carbon sources and realizing that they have huge benefits in their fertilizer program. So it wasn't by accident that we chose LCBF as our signature line. And through some of the mutual friends that I see in the crowd tonight, people that I've learned a lot from, we kind of developed this thing called the pillars. And you could lay this outline over a fertility program or evaluating a product, but I'll just get right to the bottom. What makes tonight easier, and every day we do this, is that we've got proof. We've got proof that these products work. And there's a way to capitalize on them and get return on investment, not paper cowboy stuff, right? It's real. It's about nutrient efficiency. So that makes the job a lot easier when you can go to 100 slides and say, a lot of data here, probably too much. So this is our product lineup today. You know, we used to have a generation of 10-14-1 was our first starter. You know, it was 10-30-4-0 plus some phosphoric acid and some urea and some boost. And anybody ever heard of that or tried that way back when we first came to the market with 10-14-1? It looked like a 7-layer cake. You know, it was like separated out right away, and you know, things that didn't like each other, trying to put the tape together. It's history. We came to the market with 7-21-3 because we came with a more concentrated form, still using that polyphosphate base. We're going to talk about MKP and what that is for the ortho component. And of course, everything we do is what color and smell, right? It's molasses based, it's carbon based. Boost is our signature product. We trademarked the letters, actually registered the letters LCBF Boost. It's catchy, it's easy to remember. It goes in with about just anything liquid. We prefer jar tests over tank tests, right? And farming, a lot of guys, you know, how well did you mix it the first time? I don't know, you know. But Boost we wouldn't be having this meeting tonight if it weren't for Boost, honestly. Because if it didn't have some compatibility somewhere along the line, you know, we wouldn't be the size as fast as we've grown. So before Boost, Tim was talking about TerraFed, and there was a guy that was named Dr. Freeman, and he maybe came up here. Was he at this hunt club?
Yes, he's been here.
He's been here?
6 years ago.
Wow, what a history lesson. So if you go back in the very beginning, QLF had a couple ruminant nutritionists exploring other avenues to market and merchandise cane molasses. That's pretty upfront, right? And just saying that's what we were doing. And so they took the recipes on feeding bugs and they packaged it. And I'm not going to go into details of TerraFed unless you guys want to talk about organic production, but we kind of leave him here and sometimes we bring him out. But Boost was created because we wanted to do things that TerraFed we couldn't. Boost was the successor of TerraFed. TerraFed has 3 components. And it's the basis of every LCBF product. It's QLF source cane molasses. There is a difference out there, folks. It's a big reason why I came to work for them. It's fermentation yeast extract. We don't tell you exactly which one or how much we put in there, but I can tell you that when you set a jug outside with a metabolite in it versus straight cane, you're going to get one that's pretty lively. Thus, Boost was created because citric acid doesn't stabilize dilly squat. And then we found the benefits of sulfuric acid, not just to keep your show feed from, you know, getting funky in the summertime, but actually doing chemistry. So Boost was created from TerraFed. And then this Kelpec thing, you're going to hear some cool and exciting information on a new product. You didn't hand the sheet out, but we'll get there. There's a Kelpec product. A lot of people are finding us. And that's kind of fun and interesting because as we build tools in our toolbox and expand our portfolio, you're not going to hear like, hey, I got a kelp product to sell. It had to earn its stripes. And I'll just cut right to the chase. We took 2 skids from a company that was the North American distributor of this product. Now we're up to 4 containers. So that was all growth because you guys tried and liked it. And there was synergies in the beginning with this seaweed extract with molasses. That's how we found it. So you got to share this information because you guys are coming here for more information. And this is something you can try when you get home. So 2015. QLF has 17 plants, I guess, if you count the block plants too. In 2015, we really designated just a few to do the lion's share of the work. We segregated feed from fertilizer. Huge step forward in quality control. In 2018, we expanded that footprint. So let's just look 2-3 years out. We're over actually 100 dealers right now. And the reason we're hiring guys like Michael and Mike, we got 2 M's, Michael and Mike, Jim Porter, Bob Genema, Don Huenfeld, Darren Dankey, myself, Jordan Johnson. QLF has hired more regional sales agronomists that cover basically a 7-state footprint right now because we see what's coming. These products only work as good as the follow-up and help you get in the field, right? So it's pretty impressive that way. Let's go way back when. If you drive green tractors, you might get a free subscription to the John Deere Furrow. And there's a lot of those celebrities out there that are setting yield trends, like the Colors guy that grew all those beans. I'm here to say that we have a database now that when you start looking at rates of sugar, if you want to measure just sugar per acre, we're kind of in line with some of the things that guys like this were saying a long time ago. He isn't doing ounces, he's doing pounds per application. Well, what I like about this article, that was actually our first trial, was because of this article. Bob Shimpa called up Real Farm Research in Nebraska at Aurora and said, hey, you guys are kind of big on sugar. We got a sugar product. So that was our first trial, was at Aurora, Nebraska with 10-14-1. If you just read Steve McManaman's paragraph right out of that article, it's basically going to highlight the next hour and a half. I mean, carbon is essential in all of these functions. Mineralization, rhizobia bacteria, kind of important deal on soybeans. And apparently he likes Mountain Dew, right? And I like the word energy boost. So this has kind of been in circulation for a while. And I'm not endorsing any seed companies tonight, for the record, right? But are you guys familiar with what this company's been doing the last, they've been really at it about 4 or 5 years, making a big push, right? They're out there highlighting sugar products. And, we're not going to get into the dirty details of what's the difference between dextrose from glucose, which came from sucrose. I really like my friend Alan, who said, folks, it's how plants do sugar. Let's keep it simple. But you see a lot of products right here that had TV shows, and have you guys ever tried some of these, right? Well, when you work with a feed company and you measure carbohydrates and calories, right? You send that into SDK Labs. We used to kind of hide from the word molasses because we're kind of our own competitor, right? What's the price of feed versus the price of fertilizer? There's no reason to hide. We work really hard to make Boost what it is. But look at some of these products, $20 to $40 a gallon. And this is the part I can't wrap my head around when you do good research. If you have a product that's 4 to 8 ounces per acre, and it comes back from SDK Labs at 5 to 6% sugar, how is that anything in the same arena of product that's got 4 pounds of pure sugar? How can you compare 4 to 8 ounces of something that has no calories to something that has 4 pounds of cover? Right? So just be careful on some of this information. I've actually made a lot of lemonade out of Beck's Practical Farm Research books because they're out there promoting sugar. That opens the conversation. They say, wow, Boost is a pretty honest product. There's a lot of energy in that product. Now, I'm not endorsing this guy. I don't know if you guys follow him, right? I really like this picture because I think it's a historical picture. We're at the Peoria Farm Show, right? I'm not saying that Brian and Darren Hefty know everything, right? But they've done quite a job of putting farmer television in the spotlight, haven't they? And then if you look behind there, you see the business center in Peoria. Where is Caterpillar's headquarters, right? And then you get the guy that set the record a couple times on 500 bushel corn, and we've learned a thing or two from him. And so it's kind of fun this year because one of our little dealers in Princeton, Illinois said, put your John Deere 7000 row unit right out front because we really like this product. So they said, here, put it out front. You got Brandt Chemical in the back, right? Those are some big companies and iconic things. So I just kind of have fun with that because it's kind of like, here's this little QLF Agronomy sitting out on the front of this booth with all this paparazzi going on around behind it. This was just this last year. And so maybe you don't feel the same way that I do about it because I've been doing this 9 years, but it's just kind of funny, that we're getting a little bit of attention. You ever been to the Commodity Classic? You guys go to that? Yeah? Only the best farmers go? No. So a guy comes up to our booth, and we got a little 10 by 10 before we could go to 20, 10 by 20. And we're luckily in the next room away from all the big companies where there's like bands and, a lot of, it's a circus, right? And there's a lot of contest winners. That's also the national corn growers and soybeans and wheat and Milo, right? I mean, they come around and they have your badge that has your name. Are you a contest winner? So you would have, like, banners. I was grand champion this year and I was the winner this year. But there's a lot of those guys walking around. It's kind of their vacation. It's a destination conference. It's good for us because we talk to more people in Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, in Disneyland than we do working at the local shows. And the fun thing is, last year, everybody came up to us and said, I'm looking for a carbon source, right? So the reason I'm going with the story is because, Randy Dowdy's got quite a following, right? This guy comes up to me and he goes, your Boost, what's it cost? I don't know what you guys are paying, but we deliver to just about anywhere in America for about $3.25 to $3.50 a gallon. I know you're buying under that, so you're getting a good deal, okay? So I go, that's what it costs. He goes, is it any good? Right? And then the next question, he goes, who's using it? And you guys are catching on. I'm a little bit of a smart ass, so sorry about that, the language. I go, my dad likes it. And last year he finally hit 199 bushel corn. He said, I'm calling it 200. That was his farm average. That's the truth. We farm with deer. So the guy just was having a good laugh. He kind of like put down the berries, because he was going to say, give me a tote and I'll represent your product. We shipped a load of Boost. He paid full freight for it all the way to New Jersey. Apparently there's a guy in New Jersey that's a big corn grower. I don't know, you know the name? I don't know, but it was just a good laugh, and it was like, we're getting a lot of people looking at what we got the honest product, and we're in a few circles of next level groups, just so you know. All right, so I'm going to kind of break down some of the myths out here, because sugar is just, who's your sugar source? This kind of validates what's in Boost, because you got a product out there that's talking about 8 bushel, pound or 2, 3 pounds. I just want to highlight something here. For years we've known the benefits of molasses, right? And this is a product that's raw sugar. Have you seen this? I'm not trying to pick a fight with them. Don't tweet it. But I kid you not. Did you not hear this? This company put out some scare that in Boston or some place there was a molasses spill and 100 people died. That's why you shouldn't use Boost. I'm not kidding. I'm poking fun at this because if you read through the lines, MMTS, more for your money, minerals plus enzymes, time release source, superior quality. Guys, I can take you to New Orleans and show you where you can get a bag of this. Okay, this is the sugar extract from molasses, but they frown upon molasses. But look what they're saying in their stuff. There's more to this than sugar. Yeah, it's called raw sugar that still has a stained look to it because it's got some of the plant blood in it still. So I love it when the company says, instead of buying a bag of sugar, you get 2 for 1. Guess what Boost is? A 2 for 1. Right? They're really validating what we're doing. So, does anybody know what that guy's trying to do? He's holding a device in his left hand. And I don't know which one's more accurate, his mouth or the refractometer. Ross Wogge's been a big champion for us up in northern Minnesota. This is a feedlot, Purina feed dealer. And Kurt Lahr, the guy up there, said, you know what, Ross, why don't you handle this product? So the first year we showed him all the Illinois data, he said, Champaign isn't Greenbush. Thief River is not DeKalb. We replicated the same results with 1034.0, and now he's using our starter, but Ross was tasting the sugars in the stock. We got another regional sales agronomist that eats corn in every field he's in. Folks, refractometers test something every day, every morning, in every one of those QLF plants. When we move 1.25 million ton of material over this continent, how does Corey Berg keep track of inventory? He's the owner of QLF. Because he taught me this, Kevin. This was the answer that Corey got it right. What do you use a refractometer for when you're in a sugar QLF feed plant? You're testing dry matter. You're looking at solids, right? We're tracking inventory. So really, refractometers are measuring more than just sugar. They're measuring plant sap, solids. And there's more in molasses than sugar. There's a lot of minerals, right? But let's just take a quick lesson on sugars. A lot of companies will list every OSE, right down the maltose. They'll tell you how much has been re-engineered and put back together. Folks, the stuff that comes in molasses is really good. It's hard to work with. We took a lot of that out of it for you. But sucrose is how plants do sugar. And that's one of the best carbohydrates on the market today, and the best way to buy it is with cane. So, why do we want to do that? Because biology has the last laugh in about everything we do. We want to utilize nutrients more effectively. Yes, we want plant health benefits. And you know what a benefit is from a healthy crop? More sugar exudates coming from roots, and you get more improved soil structure. But what about all the other stuff? When you think about, you guys have seen this before, but we need refresher course. We want to educate you so no one else will uneducate you. Michael came up with this. He's kind of a scholar and a philosopher and a studier, isn't he? He's just like a bookworm. He sends me stuff all the time, and he says, look at the blood. One of the most nutrient deficient plants in our diets is magnesium. You get high mag levels in your alfalfa, it's going to take on a whole nother color. Right? Look at what chloroplast is made up of. So this quote, the blood of the plant, was one of you farmers sitting in the crowd in some town somewhere that said, I get it, that stuff there, that's the blood of the plant. That's what you're dealing with, right? So there's more to this than, we're not going to test everything that's in there from an antioxidant to a phenol. Are you kidding me? We use a natural material. We're looking for the carbon source. There's just more layers to this than what you realize. And there's people in this crowd that's been using molasses for over 20 years. Is there not? Right? So we're not trying to pull one over on you. Okay? So, there's another layer. You ever wonder why we add fermentation yeast extract to our product? Well, this isn't a badger joke, so get ready. When you put these yeast metabolites to work in diets and cattle, what do? They're feeding that ecosystem, right? They're enhancing the biological function. What comes out the backside of a fermentation yeast extract? Well, some people in Wisconsin put it on their head. Some people wash it down with that kind of extract there. These are all metabolites that are full of things like enzymes and things we don't understand. But I said, this is our special sauce. And I'm going to show you one more that changed the livestock industry. It was originated in soil. You ever use this extract? You ever feel like you're talking way over your head and you don't quite understand this and you sound really smart? I don't quite understand all this, folks, so I'm just saying, I just see these parallels between biology and all the functions that we do every day. Like, here's a fermentation yeast extract. So, I want you to know that at QLF Agronomy, we're not just investing in trials for marketing. We put a lot of effort into that greenhouse and that lab and that growth chamber. We're doing research for discovery. Some of these things you're going to see coming out are building a platform for making better products. Corey Berg made that investment because he sees that it works. So here's a simple little Solvita test that measures biological activity in the form of carbon exchange. And if you do 24 hours, you're looking at the same field. That's the same field. Same soil test, same management zone. 24 hours later, you're seeing this exchange. So there's the core product, TerraFed, off the charts. Look, anybody using Solvita in agronomy, do you guys monkey with this? Or I don't really know how you use it in agronomy. You're going to grid sample Solvita test and say, I got more carbon exchange than you do over here. This is great for a science fair project. I'm going to put that my kids are going to do this someday when I need to pull a science fair project out real quick. This demonstrates that we feed biology. And there's the secret recipe. It's how plants do sugar. It's the blood of the plant. The molasses is 2-for-1. And those metabolites are doing more to enhance biological functions than just straight old molasses. Does anybody understand the favorite diet of a worm? You recognize the castings right away? It's okay if you've never seen them before. I've been with a lot of farmers that don't know what they are. Do you know what this is? That's worm manure. Right? Keeping it PG. I want to say, but why would a worm lay a casting at the surface of the soil? See, their gizzards process your hurricane stock strength corn, not because they're hungry for it, because they're going to create incubators. Because that's an afternoon snack for a worm. That's full of bacteria. That's what worms eat. Okay, so we need worms because they keep those dumb bacteria with checks and balances. So you've seen this. There's a lot of soil livestock to tend to, things to take care of. And I tell you what, this is probably the deal breaker for farms. You can move this decimal point literally 3 places. Because some guys' farms are better than others. Because dead bugs are just as important as newly hatched ones. Because you're building your microbial biomass. Then there's these guys. This is all in this gram of soil, by the way. If you go to no-till farmer, You know, there's all this debate about bacteria dominant, fungal dominant. Dude, don't overthink it. These are both important, right? And they do compete. But, you know, you want them both active in your soils. Protozoa. I got a friend who has a one-liner. He says, imagine a protozoa showing up at, you know who he is, an all-you-can-eat nitrogen-rich bacteria buffet. In Iowa, they call that pizza ranch, right? And what comes out the back end is blow-by. You got livestock manure, you want a relationship between protozoa and bacteria. You're going to create more manure credits. Then there's the guy that's got a bad name, and I don't have my funny picture. In Washington, there's a root knot nematode named Chitwood E. You guys know my last name? It's Chitwood without the E, without the I. So in Wisconsin, or in Washington State, I hand my card to somebody, and someone goes, "You're a nematode." That's a really nice way of saying hello, right? It's not like you like me better now. You knew I was a Badger fan, so Chitwood E is a bad nematode, but there's good ones too, right? And then there's the whale. What do whales eat in the ocean? Do they eat baby sharks? They eat plankton and krill, right? Worms eat bacteria. So this is a fun one here because let's get past that. I'm not endorsing a product, but when I was going to go 2 speakers behind this guy, I took his picture and then I threw it up there and said, look what people are saying about us. He was kind of like, hey, I just said that, right? This guy paid for trials with our carbon-based fertilizer and his bugs in the jug. And this is the results. So here, let's just go through it real quick. The green line is the brown fertilizer. Obviously red means check. The blue lines are his products layered in. So let's just run you through this. So it's a 624.6 in furrow, 5 gallons, versus 721.3, 5 gallons in furrow. But over here with the conventional, traditional fertilizer, I'm going to use my Radon Bananas for AgriGold, which is all those bugs right there. I'm going to put 128 ounces, 1 gallon. Over here with liquid carbon-based fertilizer, I'm going to cut it down to 4 ounces. That costs you about $1.50. You can't afford a gallon. See, Dominique DePaz, he's an expert on bugs. And if he's going to sell bugs in a jug in the 3 I states, he ain't going to be able to go at it with banana rates. He's kind of a big deal in Costa Rica. He works with the high-end crops. So these bugs in the jug have no chance of surviving in your soil. We kind of like the Field of Dreams approach, where we'll build it and they're already there and they'll come. But if you want to put a biological with the fertilizer program, we've got it. He said, I've never seen a one-shot deal like that show a statistical separation. Plus 250 bushel corn in Whitewater, Wisconsin is kind of stupid. That doesn't even register with most Wisconsin farmers. But this is replicated data, and he just proved to the world that you can use less of my bugs if you want to put it in your corn, your beans, whatever, with a carbon-based fertilizer. Has anybody ever had success with a bug product or tried a bug product? No one's going to share or confess, right? How many bugs are being thrown at us right now as farmers? Seed treatments, which there's some good evidence there. You know, Monsanto rebranded themselves as Monsanto BioA. We all know that, right? Novozyme, they bought them. I'm just saying this bug thing there's more to it. So, let's make it really clear. We don't discriminate. We both feed mycorrhizal and rhizobium. We don't discriminate. In fact, if you think about a fungi, what is it that they live on? Here's your root, and here's the fungi. I'm a host, and you're a parasite. Why do I let parasites live on my roots? I want something in exchange, don't I? Right? So we all know as farmers, we get some nice ROIs when we do fungicide correctly. The only problem is there's some negatives to some of those things, right? Because they don't discriminate. They take a lot of fungal populations down. We found that if you keep putting positives out there, you might be able to turn that thing around. No-till farmer worships the fungi, okay? Because they don't want to disrupt it. They don't want to disturb the middle zone. But they both feed on sugar. In the early day, I met you and I said, you're going to dig some roots, and that's a better 9189 right there. Everybody's got one, right? I give it a really bad name. This is 1014 when I dressed up 1030 furrow with boost in it. And we saw the same thing over and over. Shake your roots, take a picture. What that is, folks, is more biological activity. And Michael here did a little research and said 10 times his holding weight capacity in water. That might explain why this guy, when he washed his roots, he still saw the soil clean roots, even after washing them. And when I was in Michigan this year, it did not rain. And I was going to tell this story, and we might need to take a break. Huh? Are we not quite there? We're still good?
Just a couple more minutes.
Okay. So, this agronomist for a reputable organization thought that if he couldn't do 2x2, he was going to take his four-wheeler with a sprayer bar, just walk you through this research, and he's got 3 spray jets. I'm going to straddle the middle row, and I'm going to band it right over the row at second leaf. Because that's kind of when my knoll roots might be developing. Now, folks, do you think that 2x2 is the same thing as spraying something over the top of a little plant? It's not even close, right? We're pre-germ down here, and here we got to actively go and plant. We just sprayed it in a band. So this crazy guy went out there with 3 gallons and 6 gallons of boost. Now, I don't recommend this, right? And he just sprayed it right over the row when the plant was this tall and had 2 leaves. That's the check. And that's the boost beside it. This is where this picture, if we didn't have any data and we just stopped here, it would sound like snake oil, wouldn't it? This is Hudsonville Co-op, very reputable QLF account. We have turned their opinion and stuff like, hey, there's something to this. If it was as easy as running up and down rows with 4-wheelers and spraying stuff over this corn, then next time we're out with Michael, he's just going to go spray some strips and say, I'll come back when you see this. Because of that droughty condition, right, we really, it showed itself. It did not rain after I left there, month before and month after. But I want to ask you folks, we got some agronomists in the room. Why would 3 gallons of a 4032S, 11 pounds, 63% dry matter, 30% sugar, sprayed on a leaf this big, to a corn plant this big, do that? There's no nutrients. I mean, there's carbon and sugar, right? It's weird, isn't it? This is the kind of stuff I started seeing. So, this is a good time to break or keep going?
Let's keep going just for a few more minutes.
Okay.
Bring up the state.
So, we've got some announcements. We're not going to focus on this first one, right here. But as QLF Agronomy becomes more of a fertilizer company, just like QLF Feed, how many blends you sell, Kevin? Just 3?
Tons.
Too many to mention, right? There's a lot of feed change. I think there was 4,000 feed changes in QLF last year. It was a stat that Lisa threw out, right? So we're going to start adding some features. If you want to add zinc to your 721-3 or your boost, it's coming there next, at the plant, we have some products that we're going to have available. Because honestly, some of our dealers have said, well, that's great, I like your 721-3, but where am I going to get zinc, right? So we're going to start adding options for you. And we got some cool stuff that we've been working on for micronutrients. Do I say that you need them? Absolutely not. You need to prove to yourself that you're adding value. There's been some research done, right? When you get high, would you say in higher phosphorus soils or lower phosphorus? Where does zinc give us the biggest response? Right.
Which depends on the level.
So what we want to do in the research trials is prove that with our carbon-based approach that we're getting better use of whatever zinc we're trying to sell into this deal, right? So I challenge you to challenge this. That's what I'm trying to get at. But we do have some Kelpec tonight, and that's where I'm going to turn it over to him.
Tim, can you mention an update for me real quick?
Yep.
Could you mention the updated facilities at Dunlop, please?
Okay, so,
Is that-
yep, in Dunlap, I am surprised we made it as far as we did, as long as we did, because we had a mixer sandwiched between the biggest, busiest plant in the country. Then when it came springtime, hopefully cattle feed business was winding down, and we made a lot of fertilizer on one mixer in Dunlap. Corey Berg and QLF decided it's time to build new.
And as some of you guys know, we tried dramatically to keep it away from the cattle feed. You guys know what I'm talking about. Okay, just so we, okay.
So I think it's a testimony to where we're not going away, all right?
Right.
So we cut another rail spur in. You don't just move earth and move a rail car in, right? So I'll give you here's where it's going. So QLF has got some expansion options or plans in place. We're going to double our capacity for manufacturing. We're going to have more on-site storage, so that way we can not be like fresh squeezed, just-in-time inventory. And then the other big one is we're going to react our own chemistry. We're going to make our own polyphosphates. We're going to control our own destiny. That'll keep our costs down.
Totally separate.
Yeah. I mean, that says a lot when you talk about QLF manufacturing fertilizer. That 721-3 is going to literally be built from the ground up. Because we all buy from our competitor. And then we turn around and steal business from them. Right? There's only 2 companies in the country controlling phosphorus prices. you know who they are, right? I don't want to say them. They split the country in half about the Missouri River. One's Canadian, one's United States. They control it. And so we want to react our own. So that's kind of good news. Corey's like, sees the vision. We're going to start building our own stuff. We buy stuff and put it together.
I think it's great news because we've had problems in the past, of course, because you can't mix agronomy products and cattle food products into the tanks. But I think this is great news. The business keeps going.
Well, the other...
Totally separate facilities.
There's been some questions about consistency, right? I think about it all the time. I always want to get better. I don't want the phone calls. And so it's not just going to be a separation. It might be personnel. We got a guy in Illinois. I'd like to clone him. Nobody makes Boost better than him. He makes it the same every time, and he takes every batch. The guy is over perfectionist, right? And sometimes you get busy in your feed plant, and they say, gotta make some Boost now, right? We're up in our game. So we're gonna double our capacity. You guys are in a really good spot because you're close to where we're at. So your freight's really low. I mean, it's good news. So yeah, there you go. That's what QLF's making, an expansion.
Thank you.
It'll be ready by March. So Michael's going to talk about Kelpack a little bit.
Tim, are we good to go for a little while, or you want to split up?
We can go ahead and take a break.
Yeah, let's do that then.
Bring it out.
As soon as
So, Tim passed it off to me. We're going to go over one of our value-added products real quick before we get into the meat and potatoes of Boost in terms of trials in 721.3. And the beauty of working with a plant health company is that we get to see a lot of other products, and products kind of come our way because a lot of the products in the plant health or biological sphere kind of tend to gravitate towards people that work with food sources, right? And so we had the ability to take on a product called Kelpack, and just a real quick backstory on it is our agronomist from out in the PNW, the Pacific Northwest, was actually the head salesman for the United States for this Kelpack seaweed extract, and we hired him on because what he was seeing with his customers in some of the high-value crops and also the row crops was a synergism between looking at natural plant stimulants and hormones and sugar. And so what this product is it's a cell sap product extracted from seaweed or kelp. And we'll go into kind of why it's a little bit different than every other kelp product on the market. So just a real quick backstory before we get into data is there's 3 different species of kelp on the market. And to keep it real light and easy, one of them is only located on the coast of South Africa, and the rest of them are located all over the planet. And so one of them's harder to get, one of them's easier to get. And so what happens is when Kelp Products International, the company that owns Kelpack, extracts kelp, the sap from the kelp, they get basically a clear fluid that contains all of the goodies in the sap in terms of hormonal products. And so these hormonal products have a lot to do with how our plants grow. And so the way I like to explain it is we're taking a God-given recipe of soup of hormonal and biostimulant products from this species of kelp, a plant that is one of the most aggressive plants on the planet, right? It's got to get from germination to 30 meters to sunlight and start photosynthesizing and be able to withstand the currents of the ocean as soon as possible, right? So it has a very robust hormonal recipe to do that. And so we can take that product and add it right to the seed or right to the furrow trench and see some of those results in terms of root growth. And so Kelpack trials, these are a seed treatment trial, and it's really hard to see these. I'm going to go over them real quick, but what we're seeing is we did some replicated studies in Minnesota, Nebraska, South Dakota, and what we found is the average yield increase by doing a seed treatment with this Kelpack product was about 6 bushel. But this is highlighted, and I'm going to read it to you. When we added it with an LCVF, a carbon-based product, we got more yield out of it. There's a synergistic effect. And so 6 bushel was the average. It's pretty cool increase in yield on a $1.50 to $3 treatment. And we picked up another 3 bushel when adding it to a carbon-based fertilizer.
Go back one real quick, sorry.
Yeah.
It's funny when you read quality liquid feed, and a hefty trial. This was tested by the Baltic guys. And it wasn't us that tested it, it was Kelp Products. So it's kind of been underneath their nose the whole time. And I just dug this up. You can go on Kelpec USA and you'll read quality liquid feed. So that was our old 1014 number when they tested it there. So it's kind of separated itself from the rest of those treatments. That was tested by the hefties.
And so there's a lot of benefits to plant hormonal product. And what Kelpec is it's a auxin-dominant product, and it's a naturally derived product. So there's a lot of checks and balances so that we don't actually go backwards or hurt any part of the growth process. So has anyone used any type of hormonal product on the market, whether it be Ascend, Radiate? I mean, there's a lot of them out there. We're all trying... Toggle. There's a lot out there. And what we're trying to do is to trick the plant into doing something that we want it to do. And so when you're an auxin-dominant product, you promote lateral root growth naturally. And so what we tend to see when we run a seed treatment of this Kelpec is we get substantial root growth. And the beauty of this is because auxins are created in the shoots, right? Auxins drive root growth. So the shoots that create the auxins, they got to hit the root. The roots create cytokinins and they drive top growth, right? So you got to have both to get any. Well, if we can push root growth early, we get a substantial 10 times effect by creating more cytokinins to get more top growth. So anyway, all we're really after is a big root. If we can get a big root early, we got more access to minerals, and we can gain a bigger rhizosphere early on. So we talk about, this is a application of Kelpec later on. Kelpec also helps to improve seed set in different crops because there is a lot of other natural plant products in there. Tim talked about it in Boost. There's racinosteroids, polyphenols, a lot of big words in Kelpec that also helps in terms of reproduction. And they all go back to pollen tube elongation. How fast can we take that pollen set and hit the tube so that we can start to make fruit? And this is kind of one of the big advantages to using a kelp product foliar. This is kind of, I'm going to skip over this actually. So let's just get to some of the meat and potatoes of what we're doing with Kelpec and LCBF. So this is edible beans, perm area, light ground. What we're looking at is Kelpec with our LCBF program versus a Czech program, which would have been the competitor. In this area, guys love CPS. So they're running a riser, 717.3 with micros and a radiate product. A little bit of jib acid, right? So what we did was, most guys that grow dark red kidneys consider this to be like a plant that one will come up here. It's poor even emergence. It's just the way it is. And so what we found when we added Kelpec with our boost, 2 gallons of boost, 2 gallons of boost, a gallon of 721.3, and a pint of Kelpec and furrow, we found extremely even germination, but the root growth was substantial. I mean, there is bigger roots on that little plant than there is cotyledons.
What's the competitor program on the left?
It's a CPS program. It's riser, radiate, and then there was an actually insecticide in there as well. So this is what they normally see. This isn't a big deal. Early on, they're starting to germinate. Plants it's just barely starting to break the shell. This is 30 inches apart. We split a field and we just took a few different spots 30 inches apart with and without. And that's what it looked like early on. So we know we're getting some pretty solid root growth from an auxin-dominant product. When it came to a couple weeks later, we were seeing some pretty even emergence into that V2, V3 stage. And we're looking at some plant loss and poor emergence and evenness with the Czech. And again, the Czech isn't nothing. It's a pretty standard program guys are using. So we're seeing some pretty neat things from this natural growth hormone product, biostimulant. Corn. A lot of this happens trial by error, right? This is a new product kind of thrown on our table last year. And it was tough to get out because it takes seeing is believing, and some of this stuff we like to see things before we naturally believe. And so I had a dealer that had some Kelpec, and he said he had a grower that said, "Hey, can you treat my product with this Genesis Egg product called Invigorate?" It was a big thing for 2 years. Corn Warriors kind of pushed it, and the dealer said, "Well, hey, I'll do that for you if you let me over-treat some of your corn with this new Kelpec product we're trying." Didn't know what to expect. We get to that V2 stage and we're starting digging plants, and all of a sudden we see something fairly incredible. both these products should be kind of doing the same thing, but we're seeing extremely robust root growth on that corn seed versus we're still at a brick. There's definitely roots growing, but what we're seeing is aggregation. We got a lot of oxygen there. We got a lot of new tiny white roots, and we got active roots growing. And so that was pretty cool to see this farm.
Both sides had LCBF.
Yes, so there is a base LCBF under each one.
Both had our sterling.
And this was a pretty big deal. They only treated a few acres worth, and so we just had a big Kelpec meeting here in Perm area yesterday, and this guy got in front of a lot of growers and said, you know, what we saw was pretty cool, and there's not going to be another seed on our farm that doesn't have Kelpec has a seed treatment on it. So it was pretty cool to see. And this is just reiterating what Kelp Product International has seen for 40 years. They're a company that's been around for 40 years and they have one product. That's it. They're an expert in one thing, and that's what keeps them going with a product like this. So wheat, not a lot of wheat around here, but same thing. We're seeing substantial root growth. Peas, a lot of peas up in the area. Soybeans, this was a big one. Again, there's boost under both of these soybean plants, but the left side had Kelpec. I don't know why the label's not on there. The left side had Kelpec, the right side didn't. We had more mucilage on that root system. The root system was more robust, and we were finding nodules at a foot down. That's awesome. Nodules will only develop on a root if there's oxygen present, right? They're live bugs, they're rhizobia. And so a lot of the soybeans we were digging last year, most of the nodules were 1 inch to 2 inches down. That's where oxygen stopped. And so if we can get nodules deep, we increase our potential for plant production, right? Soybeans take up to 6 pounds of nitrogen per bushel to get us to a yield. And so that was pretty cool to see. And this is some studies we did with Kelpec and Boost in 2018 in Clarion. And this is our research agronomist kind of laying out the studies as they were progressing through. And here's what we found out. I'm gonna go over this with you real quick because it's hard to see, but the check was actually 2 gallons of Boost under the seed. So not a true check. We had Boost as the base layer, and every time we looked at adding Kelpec has a seed treatment. Let's see, seed treatment right here. Seed treatment and Boost. We picked up a couple bushel. We go to seed treatment, or we go to Boost with Kelpec foliar and Boost foliar. Picked up another couple, but the biggest return, biggest ROI, and biggest increase showed where we put Boost and the seed treatment together, and then we put Boost and Kelpec as a foliar. And so we're seeing some neat stuff. But the reason we get the synergism is because when we command the plant to start putting more roots out, right? What does it take to push root growth beyond just hormones? It takes some energy, right? We got to have energy to drive that. And so that's why there's a synergistic effect beyond just adding a hormonal biostimulant product.
If you look at the second place finish, and you don't have a way to do seed treatment, because we don't want to be confusing people that this product isn't something you can try, because it comes in jugs, so you can try a little, play around, right? We wouldn't be showing you folks this information like Kelpec. We've been with this product 4 years. We're just kind of finally coming to the market and saying, hey, it works. And if you just took that 61 bushel yield, there's statistical separation in this replicated data from the 52. That's foliar feeding. Okay, Kelpec does have to go through when it's applied on the skin there, right, of the cell of the plant tissue. But look at that. That's 2 gallons of Boost and a quarter Kelpec at R1. So something you can try. A lot of you are already using Boost on soybeans, right? Something you can try. Get a box of it, throw it in there, leave some checks. Let's see if we see it. See if you can duplicate what we're seeing here. Now, I don't know about you, but how many field days do you go to where they have they're trying to sell you everything, right? This program started with option A, and you're already to A to Z, right? You get to the end and you say, well, that didn't win. Very rarely do you see a program where everything's stacked on top of each other and it ends up out at the first place finish. So I don't want you to look at Kelpec like, hey, you got to follow this laundry list. We're just sharing this information so that you can play around and see if you see something. Okay? Not every day do you have a $25 investment that generates $80 of revenue. I mean, soybeans, do you know how to push them? I don't. I'm looking for things to try to relieve stress and improve food set. So this is an interesting compound, and it kind of earned their way into our lineup. I don't want to be to walk away here thinking, oh, now they're going to come out with kelp juice. All right? It's a good product. It's unique. And that data is not very colorful. We're going to get it on a piece of paper. It's a pretty good set of data.
So I had Rion here 2 days ago with me, and he's from South Africa, and he said if you want to, the most easy and economical place to start with this product would be has any type of seed treatment. I know we think of seed treatment's got to be perfectly coated and whatnot. A lot of these trials, farmer-driven trials, were with a hand sprayer as it was coming out of the tender. A lot of them weren't perfect, and
Michael recorded his meeting with the engineer from South Africa, and he'll send you the YouTube link if you want to listen and follow along. There's a lot of information in there.
This isn't a living product. It's hormones extracted from another product. So it's just got to hit the seed. It's got to be as close to the seed as possible. Soybeans, we tend to put it in furrow because a lot of times our soybeans already have 10 to 12 ounces, 15 ounces of seed treatment on them. There's no room left for anything else. Otherwise, we're going to wind up with a brick that is stuck together. So
How much Calpac are they putting on? How much Calpac on this?
So the seed treatment is going to be about 6 ounces
Per 100 pounds.
per 100 pounds, and then the foliar is a quart.
In the foliar, we take this for herbicide?
Yes, absolutely. And Larry, I'll send you the data. So they actually have some neat stuff on, since it is very systemic and it helps to, when you apply it to the leaf, it's going right to the root system. They have some really neat data with herbicides showing it's pulling it in, especially systemic herbicides.
They've done sap analysis to show the timing in which, like glyphosate moves in the plant.
How long it takes to hit the root system. And so it was pretty cool to see that. But yes, it taints mixed with everything. So let's move into our flagship product here, Boost. A lot of guys here have used Boost product, and as Tim talked about, it's not your off-the-shelf molasses. We've done a lot of great things to it to agronomically dress it up, so it's something that we can actually use on our farms without a ton of trouble. And so some of the big points we like to talk about on Boost is it is a clean source of molasses. It's source verified. We now can take it from the plants down in Louisiana, bring them to the plants to make the product, and we can verify each load coming up. So we're getting to the point where we have a very good handle on where it's going, and if we have a bad batch or anything like that, we can verify all that stuff. So
people know, like, QLF is the contender on the Mexican source cane. We've got great partners. So it's not just made in America. We actually can verify where it came from. How many decades we've been planting up, putting sugar mills lined up with wheat mills, right? We've been trying to line up those plants. You get a consistency. Dunlap's getting the same consistency of the crop of cane. Whereas the biggest competitor we have out there, what do? They bring it from other countries. So the consistency is huge in agronomy because you can't get one shot to do it right. So that's one reason I came to work at QLF and said, okay, if you're going to build this product, are we going to run out of cane? Don't worry, folks. We got a long way to go. And can you source it the same way every year? Right? These guys have been doing feed a long time. They've seen some real ugly crap out there for bathtub mixtures. So this is why this is working. You got a good source.
So it's extremely important. We're not working with water. We're working with a 63% dry matter product. We got to have a clean, consistent product to bring to the farm. So fermentation yeast extract, kind of our secret sauce. It's just another form of bug food. We're kind of layering bug foods in this product. But the biggest one is low pH. Why is low pH important? Keeps things stable, right? This thing could start growing if we didn't have something to stabilize it. Molasses with water will start to grow. And so low pH does a lot of cool things. Obviously in stabilization it's a big deal, but when you run it through equipment, it starts to take things and put in solution. We remove, just like your grandma's Bo Peep ammonia, when you add ammonia to the floor, it'll take dirt and put it in the solution. So that's a big point in helping to acidify the fertilizer we're putting it with. Where does nutrient exchange happen? Low pH, right? When a plant is feeding sugars to the rhizosphere and carbonic acids, it's acidic because that's how nutrient exchange happens. That's how minerals get etched out of the soil. So we want to be working with low pH fertilizers. And then we add a sulfur component, which is obviously helps in a lot of our protein and oil crops to help bring that up. So
those of you that have used molasses, you say, okay, what's in Boost? How do you engineer it? The amount of sulfuric acid that the guys add in the plant, there's a little bit of finesse to that. Because if you do it wrong, your Boost will smell like Chipotle. It will be smoky flavor. Okay? It will burn it. Believe me, I've seen some burnt molasses out there in your streets, and we are sticklers about that. making sure we always find the best way to put the amount of sulfuric acid we're doing into that molasses. The ammonium sulfate, we literally beat this stuff with hammers. We start with dry. So you think about the 63% dry matter. I don't think we can do enough justice to say, you know how much work goes into Boost? You know, it's a heavy product. It's got some different components. It's not just filtered molasses, right? So that's why I really hammer this home, so you know that you've worked with both. We've engineered this, and these are key features.
So this is our latest feature sell sheet. When we bring Boost to a grower, the first things we want to talk about is how we're building stronger starts. We're adding a high energy carbon component to our fertilizers. We're working with biology in that rhizosphere. And so we have some great information on foliar feeding. Works great as a compatible tank partner to a lot of the things you're using with your sprayer. Nitrogen use efficiency, we're going to talk about that. We're super excited and have a lot of data on how we can get more out of the 28 or 32% you're using already. And then a yield potential. We're trying to safen our fertilizers. We're basically softening the blow that salt brings to crops. So, Tim?
So, we've been at this a little while now, and in the beginning it was like, hide the word molasses, right? And if you weren't using quality liquid feed, and we didn't mention anything about molasses, and you were just here for agronomy meeting, you know, like if you are, you'd be like, well, if you got molasses, because I hear that's a good thing, right? When we put this together with our new marketing and ad campaign, when we had that off of there, one of my colleagues says, well, this could be a product from Coke. You know, it's doing all these things. It looks like a agrochemical, and it doesn't tell you anything, right? So we used to hide from these names. Guess what? Not anymore. It's sugarcane molasses. And then we put things with it. So this is going to be in your papers. There's already ads being run. It's a new ad campaign. This is one of those ad slicks. And these products here are basically kind of highlighting some of the places that we've been putting it in. And, you know, I agree with the guy today that, look, folks, plants feed through roots. But one thing that's interesting is when you see a difference in glyphosate uptake, there's something going on with molasses. Anybody experience that? Where you've seen a weed kill faster? Right? Are we allowed to say that out loud? Or, you know, it's fun when an agronomist from somebody that's like, I'm just going to let you go out. Believe it, I can let other people talk too. That doesn't sound like it, but... and I said, hey, let's go scout that field. And we're walking through, so what do you think? He says, well, it didn't burn it like you said. I had FlexStar, and I can see right through the row. And I said, I know, but let's go see where the weeds are. He said, that grass shouldn't have been dead that soon. Folks, when QLF and the company I used to work for, it was a big part of this. When they launched the Boost product, some of these things, we got lucky. We didn't know this, right? That drift control partner right there, drift control, have you seen it? It's weird, isn't it?
So you've had FlexStar and it hasn't...
No burn. I'll show you some pictures. Nitrogen use efficiency. We need to control the language out here because as we get regulated, if we don't start doing this language, California has rules that said fertilizer can't touch the ground. I'm not kidding. In the almond industry. Whatever. All right, so there's a lot of these stewardship programs, and I'm not poking fun at it, okay? Just clarification. But I have another friend that said, you know, what about the 5 W's? Or 4 W's. I'll just go with 4. You know, isn't fertilizer about the right place, right time, right rate, right source? How many people say wrong source, wrong rate, wrong time, right? I mean, there's more to this, right? Kind of fun. All right, Arise Research and Discovery. Okay, it's a company that buried leaching tables underneath their farm. And we started with them doing a residue trial. And lo and behold, it becomes a glimpse into managing the nitrogen cycle. In fact, it was paid for by Dr. Carver, who was a ruminant nutritionist for QLF for a long time, who way back when, a long time ago, had experience with molasses and sugar at his Cargill days on soils, right? Dr. Carver. And he paid for this trial at Arise Research. He found this, and they were supposed to run it in the fall. You know how you guys got stalks you want to get broken down before it freezes? By the way, don't waste your time once the cold comes in. Just wait till spring. So these guys didn't get it done. We have this trial that's been prepaid. Bob Shimpa asks the new guy, Tim, says, hey, we got a trial. He says, you want to run it? I'm like, yeah, don't give it back. We're still getting a research budget going, you know. What was interesting about Martinsville, Illinois, in this Arise Research and Discovery, when we were comparing it to UAN alone, because we all know that nitrogen sprayed on stalks can sometimes show up in your yield monitor, and there's nitrogen that's required to break down those stalks. When we put the UAN out there to the control, there was no difference. When we put Boost with it, let's just call it a carbon source, there was an 11% advantage from March to May. Down here it says, well, we need prediction tools. It's less nitrogen to get to 200 bushels, but even this one here, there is so much in this data that we have not brought to your attention. How much fertilizer is in your corn stalks? I mean, to grow 250 bushel corn, doesn't the factory need 300 pounds of potassium to produce that? We only remove 70. Is that rough numbers? I don't know. So we know there's a lot out there, and you can build soils with corn on corn on corn on corn. You can if you can get it digested and recycled. But this is the one that really gets your attention. Okay? How can you have 368% improvement in this pool of nitrogen that is not nitrate? It's these pools of protein, soluble forms, meaning they're readily available. You got to run to the lab to do this. And you're showing that from UAN and control alone, starting before and after, taking that soil, running it to the lab, treating, running it to the lab, and seeing the growth in nitrogen in your bank account. How do you stand up here and do what I do and explain that to folks? You got 368% more nitrogen in your soil checking account. How do you explain that? This is where this whole thing's going in agronomy. They're looking at how we can measure and track nitrogen.
How much boost did you put out there?
A couple gallons. Okay, so that was pretty long-winded. Sorry. Let me get right to the nitty-gritty. How many people have seen what a nitrogen cycle is? There's nitrogen cycles, when you Google it, that show living and dying things. And then there's the one that's just saying chemistry, right? This NH3 is NH4. This converts to this. CO2 moves here. And it doesn't take into account the death of fish. Apparently that's a fish. This looks like an extinct animal. I don't know what that is, right? But these are all part of the nitrogen cycle. I love this illustration. Now I'm going to show you university nitrogen use efficiency future teaching. You guys don't milk cows, right? Here it's mostly beef. But do you know dairy nutritionists and feedlot are some of the best nitrogen use efficiency managers on the planet? They know that in your soil rhizosphere, I wasn't kidding, when you take the second most consumed commodity in quality liquid feeds, we buy so much from Coke, we dissolve it down and sell it back to them, right? Urea. And today I accused him of getting away with murder. He puts gasoline in your cow's stomach because they've learned how to put it with a thing like a complex carbohydrate, sugar cane molasses. Those two things took natural talk and turned it into rumen health. How many people would buy? I was the idiot that bought the natural tub, and someone says, you got to get a little NPN in there if your cows have a chance to, digest that crappy feed you put up, right? So it's so weird how this parallels each other, because what happened here, folks, 368% improvement in soluble organic nitrogen. There it is. Right there. Way to go, feed people. You are now in agronomy. You bank your nitrogen into little dead bug bodies. You manufactured it. That's what we're doing, folks. So here's an illustration, not far from Des Moines, Iowa. Mike and I got to meet the guy. I'm showing this to him, and he said, that's my farm. I was like, oh, you have no idea. You changed my life. Your son forgot to turn on the pump, and this accident shows up, and I said, wow, there's something going on here, right? I said I wouldn't do organic. This is organic. This is your one little piece of organic tonight. If we showed up on your farm and something you did the late days of June, and he's flying his drone over it, late days of July, and a yellow band starts to show up across one of those strips, what does your mind think? Something got missed, something got added, right? The kid at last cultivation forgot to turn his pump on when he was cultivating. He had totally tubular welded on the shovels on his sweeps. It was terra-fed. Who cares about the yield? Let's do the shadow box. So if we lined up a pretty shadow box looking at prettiest to ugliest in 1/1000th of a check, if you could line up 28,000 of those organically, you'd make some money, right? That's 200 bushel of corn there. If you go to the ugly side, and we take the ugly ones in that 1/1000th of a check, and you say there's some that are falling behind, why would 10 gallons of this sugar product in June show up at Labor Day? The answer is there's fuel. There's a backstory, right? You guys work with livestock winter, right? You wouldn't have got this result without having a base. This is pure mineralization happening right before our eyes, right? So, there's a guy that's in human medicine named Dr. Arden Anderson, okay? He's not an agronomy guy, but he's got it. You're shaking your head, yes, you know who he is. So, he throws this wild statement out there that nitrogen moves in all directions. And you need to hook it to a carbohydrate just to get a hold of it. Well, I'm more in line with the QLF thing, where it's like, we need to hook it to a carbohydrate and also a protein. It's called little dead bug bodies. And if you take that out of his page there, that's what he said, that's where that came from. But let's just do 2 years of RISE research tracking soil solution, nitrogen, your checking account, before and after. And here you have 10 gallons with 2 gallons of boost, March to May. That's kind of like the window you'd say is what, weed and feed, pre-emerge. That'll work in Illinois, right? The next year, we come back at side dress. We're going to come, say, post-emerge. Let's call it April 16th to June 16th. Now, all we're tracking is what was before and after in the soil nitrogen solution. And we're doing these forms of nitrate, ammonium, and water-soluble organic. So these are the 3 pools we're measuring, right? This went to like 6 bushel, by the way. But this is just to show you the tracking and movement of nitrogen and how carbon-based approach works with your nitrogen. So, just kind of having fun. What about how do you retain, recover, and recycle nitrogen? And everything is tied to biology. So in Clarion, Iowa, we took 100 pounds of urea. We broadcast that pre-germ. I like to use pre-germ because that's like sometimes 2 weeks. Not pre-emerge. And then we decided we're going to come back with a side dress trial. We're going to go 15, 20, or 25 gallons of nitrogen. And back when we started this in 17, that was separated you by $5 an acre. And I would agree with you. I'd always pick the higher one because I don't want to be the one that left you short. This is fun. We came in at 10, 15, and 20% inclusions of nitrogen. So we took 32%. We turned it brown. We've been saying that a lot. That's confusing to people that heard it for the first time. Turning it brown means putting boosts in it. Okay, we put 32%, we took 10% away. Now we have 29% solution nitrogen. We did 15%. Now we have 27% nitrogen solution. 32 down to 20%, we have 25% solution. Okay? And we did that all through replications. And I'm not trying to do politics here, but Iowa's a big state, isn't it? Jeez. With the Raccoon watershed getting all the attention, somebody forgot that the Des Moines River watershed goes to the same water filtration plant. Folks, when we picked Clarion, Iowa, it was kind of like this. We didn't really plan for this. And there was an Iowa State grad that my friend knew, and he said he's really good and he's reasonable. And so when you do independent research, you want to pay for lots of replications. You want to look for a good price. And this guy's been awesome. We might have to move because he's kind of become biased. He said, "Would you take boosts on trade?" I'm like, "You can't do that. You're the guy with the independent research." But think about this. I mean, you're doing a nitrogen study in one of the hot contested areas in the country, right? That's kind of weird. I just got to highlight that because we're all in this together. We have to fight back a little bit and say farmers need to not be told like you can't do this, can't do that, because honestly. Des Moines is a CAFO. Let's be real, right? There's a lot of pigs there. No. But let's just get to the nitty gritty. So every time we took away nitrogen and made room for carbon, folks, it came back like this. That's 2017. Every time. This is how my friend Ben started it when I said, Ben, you really understand this. I said, let's interview you. The key features of Boost are very simple. It's available carbon and it's low pH. And when Ben gets fancy with his words, he says, extending the life cycle of your applied nitrogen. I said, so what you're saying is you improve the compatibility where chemistry works with your biology. Yeah, kind of like that. Who has smelt, show of hands, who has smelt the conversion of ammonia to ammonium form in your tank? Meaning, Boost in your nitrogen tank, you can stick your head in it. Alright? Okay. Improving environmental stability. So what he's saying is encouraging biology stops this movement right here. But the volatility part, you smell, it's not agrotane. Let's get this clear. We're not an inhibitor. I want you to understand that too, because people get funny about, you're an inhibitor. No Coke, if you're in the crowd, we are not agrotane, okay? We're different. You can quit doing your tests on our ammonia to ammonium conversion. By the way, they're testing our product, so it's kind of annoying. So, let's go out to the chalkboard and understand how we make what I like to call Boost 29. 32 converted into Boost 29. It's real simple. We took away 1.5 gallons, 2 gallons, 2.5. We took away 10%, added 10%. 2017. By the way, did you notice in this next couple of years, you got this data right in front of you, you can take home, 2 years in a row, that 15 beat 25. How many of you would agree with that? On this particular farm, it's not about the amount. It's about the timing, the placement, how you do it, what else is going on. On this farm, 15 always wins.
When was this applied?
All they know is we're going to probably says V6, but it's an actively growing plant.
32 didn't burn the plant?
No, it's Y drop. It's dribbled.
Okay.
Yep, we're selling the shape of Y here.
Okay.
2018, back-to-back wins consecutive. Now look at the yields from one year to the next. A little bit wet here this year, right? I got a picture I need to throw in the presentation where we go to the field road, to the plots, and there's Precision Ag Research sign with posts in water, like floods. I thought our nitrogen data was gone for the year. So have
you done anything pre-emergence? You know, like I was telling you earlier, you have a lot of guys that put a pretty good level of manure on, but just kind of got what they need, and they'll come back with 10 gallons of...
Yes.
I mean, have you done anything there? Will that work the same, you think, or not?
I know it will. We haven't done replicated independent research showing weed and feed, but everybody that's took our product on has said every time nitrogen's put on this farm, we put carbon with it.
I mean, some guys that do their animal in the spring and some in the spring.
Yep.
Some do it in the
So,
fall and add some guys will put some in the spring.
I'll just fast forward quick. A little bit of quiz here. When should I put Boost with UAN? Every time. It's not about... Look, I've got these one-liners, and it sounds funny, but Boost doesn't treat your acre, folks. It treats your solution. If your solution is nitrogen use efficiency, and you want to treat your solution, it's the same as putting ATS in every time I go across. That's been sold in this country like unbelievable, hasn't it? And I just want to make a disclaimer, because we're all friends here, right? I've seen a lot of data stacked against ATS. But instantly it became a success because we know we want 10-to-1 nitrogen. We know we want sulfur out there. Folks, to get a 26% ammonium thiosulfate analysis in solution, it's elemental. And it needs to be converted. So the challenge is, I didn't want to pick a fight with ATS, but I think you can see when you do things like dry sulfate-based fertilizers, soil corrections, and things like that, you can't get there with liquid. Here's a liquid salesman telling you can't do everything with liquid, folks. Okay? And so this is where I'm like, make room for Boost in your ration. If you have a 28003S, then just back out 10 and add 10. We'll jar test fine with ATS. You guys using Boost, UAN, and ATS? No problem.
But usually, with your manure history, you probably have enough sulfur from your manure. If you're doing it.
Yeah, so my background's in dairy nutrition a little bit. I don't just enough to be dangerous. And if I smell like the barn when I come in here, it's because I was having some inefficiency, wasn't I? You want to build some protein, you need to get your sulfur uptake in your plants, and you'll feed your cows different, and your manure will change. So some of the best, healthiest livestock out there don't have as much sulfur in their manure. So there's a trick to that. I'm just saying, like, make room for boost in your UAN. 20 gallons. Let's pick the middle of the road. All the agronomy consultants in the back of the room, they placed their bets. They had to go 15, 20, 25. Kevin's got $100 on 20. Right? And we're going to compare. We're going to compare not just 10, 15, 20. You guys want this data set, you can have it. It's so fun because we knew that 15 was winning the first year. Why spend money on 25 and 20? Let's dial in 15. So we went 3 and 12, 3 on top of 15. We went 1.5 and 13.5 and 1.5 on 15. If you can't see this, this is standard practice and this is brown fertilizer. It's big picture view here. I get people that pick this apart and try to tell me that between 13 and a half and a gallon and a half versus 15 and a gallon and a half, I'm going to take this one all the time because this is less money risk right here. This is my winner right here. That's where I'm going. Now you can go on your farm and decide if you want to go 15, 30, 60, National Corn Grower Contest winner. I mean, I don't care at that point. You guys need to test our product gallon for gallon, but you're using 29 or 20, you follow the same 25 versus the other. So in your sheets there, this is in today's market for $4.50 net investment. That means you backed out a gallon or two, right? You had a $23.50 return averaged over 2 years, and it's trending towards statistical significance. This year we hit it for sure. Last year we were super close. One more year, we're going to have it. This is publishable. That's pretty big. But here's the fun part. In Clarion, Iowa, all of that area, and I asked you today too about how many people are using nitrogen stabilizers. Right, raise your hands. UAN, you throwing in some Agrotane Plus, a little N-Serve, Instinct. That's the one for the reason they're not working in your heavy, big capacity soils is it just doesn't have any economics, does it? What do those products do for soil health? Nothing. So if you could break even and did it with less nitrogen per bushel removed, this is Corey Berg now. He says, I want to know what it's like when a farm does this for 3 years. And it's pretty profound because what you're doing is you're improving biological activity. You guys have been farming this way for a while too. You know this stuff. Like if bugs get a chance to grow, things get better. Your farms get more resilient. So here's some farm stuff out here. Your yield mats. Michael can do a better job cleaning up. This guy's northern Minnesota, and he's only doing 10 gallons, and there's a crop formation where he put 2 gallons and pulled it away. There's 6 bushel. That's recovery, right? Here's a guy in Hudsonville, Michigan. Hudsonville Co-op, the guy that ran up and down with 4-wheelers. Here's his trial set. That's another 6 bushel. These aren't big, crazy numbers, folks. These are hard numbers. 2015, remember I told you I met a kid in Greg Sauter's farm? That was his custom plates. That's kind of funny right there. And that's the guy who sold you this concept. Literally, the guy had a truck at the place I visited, and one of his workers had one of these black diesel trucks with chrome, and he had custom plates called 2 Boost, and I'm holding jugs of Boost. I'm not kidding. O'Brien County Egg Supply out of Primgar. Guess what? That's where those trials were done. That was the results. This is going back. This is VT. That's too late, but this is going way back now. That's 4 bushel, but see the consistency? See that and see that? Those guys are customers of ours. You guys know those folks down there in Iowa, Primgar? They built their business on this. 2 young guys bought 3 rigs with undercover and wide drops, and they said, we're going to make our business doing service and application. They sell loads of kelp seed, and they said, hey, that boost we tested 3 years ago, can we be a dealer? Sorry, that's a little bit provocative, but this is my passion right here. The definition of best practice. I can't get there to 29 from 4, right? So folks, is there anybody in here that's buying 32 from the co-op we're selling this to you through? Right? We would love to be able to turn everything brown. But you're not going to get there with the guy that doesn't control the 32. You guys are doing it on your own on the farm. That's fine, the way things we're doing here. But for us to get Boost out there in the mainstream, we need to get it be a widespread adopted practice. And I do believe this is where it's going in farming. I think guys are going to see that we need to get carbon involved all the time. I could be wrong. All right, let's go to Arizona. The toughest soils on the planet, alkalinity. You're in a desert and your water's full of salt. What option you got? Okay? So now you see sorghum silage on a dairy that we've worked with years ago. They still had us back even after we plugged a row years ago. All right, here's what is so weird. We hired Dr. Chernicki. He's a retired guy from the University of Arizona. He knows desert language. And we're showing UAN flooded on and UAN and Boost flooded on. And I just love this video because I could not have predicted what you're going to see next year. This is just this past season. I said, John, don't wash the roots. I'm all about dirt cleaning roots. He's like, I'm going to go take them over to the ditch bank. The flood waters are coming. You know how they irrigate down there? They open up the gate. If you're not there to catch it, sorry, you're lost. Colorado's going on by you, right? So here's Dr. Chernicki.
Okay.
This is not an NRCS event.
Check some roots.
So on that side is just standard practice. 32% goes in that irrigation canal you guys call cricks. You know, that's how you're putting your fertilizer on. And the one that's upstream has some carbon in it. And it's kind of fun when the retired professor says, you see what's going on here? He dug 20 more plants that day, right? You guys know what holds soil in place, don't you? It's soil aggregation because of biological activity. And the worst thing you can do is put 32% in that crick. They call irrigation. This just blows my mind. So you can learn a lot from those bad environments. You know, this is what you need to be doing on your farms. Kind of crazy. That's what it looks like. I always like to show a picture of the crop so you know that it wasn't some average crop. That's a good crop. That's Arizona Mountain in the background. That's going to make good feed. They grow like year-round down there. Sometimes you get energy like that. Who said that the other day? They said that's really good. That's good digestibility. There's a lot more non-structural carbohydrates in that one side. That's what your corn salad should look like. Michael, he likes this one. This is a good one.
So where else can we find a way to put Boost on your acre, right? I mean, we talked about a lot of different application points. This one goes back to UAN, but in a different form, right? We're not necessarily in a broadacre, broadleaf, or not broadleaf, but solid seeded crop. We're not wide dropping. We're not just hitting dirt. So we got to find a way. A lot of guys up north on wheat are using a stream bar effect to get their nitrogen down, right? And inevitably, we're going to hit some collateral damage if we put 32 or 28 on a leaf. Well, how do we help alleviate that stretch, right? Because those leaves that are burnt, yeah, that plant will come out of it, but that's an open infection for disease in the future. And so what can we do with 28 or 32 to help tame it down? And so when we add a 20% inclusion of Boost to nitrogen and we start spraying it on green leaves or dropping it on green leaves, we can start to mitigate a lot of that burn. What does carbon do? Buffers salts. What causes burn? Salt. So this is kind of some interesting. What happened was Tim took a real close-up picture on the ground, and we had a drone fly, and there was a crop formation right down the center of the field. And they just all they did was took out a gallon of 32, added a gallon of Boost, and then went against the control. And it was night and day difference in the color of the crop, the chlorophyll content.
Why won't that show up?
I don't know. That sucks. This is a good one.
Dun,
There, now it
All right.
Zoom it in a little bit. So,
hey, quit messing with it.
wow, what's going on?
The show might be over, folks.
Yeah.
You're like, good,
Technology.
good. We've had enough. We like it. Let's move on.
Go up, go up, go up, go up, go up, go up.
But
Way up.
have you ever seen this effect with molasses? Burn and no burn? Now, don't do this on corn. Because a lot of guys see that picture and say, the hell with wide drops, we're just going to spray it on.
Corn.
Don't do that.
That's what I thought you were getting.
No. But it is
so much you can do.
it is a flat fan fungicide, so you know you got covered.
Yeah.
This is a dairy
So
fungicide.
it's kind of ironic, right? We're putting something that'll burn the leaves with a fungicide application, right? It's kind of funny. I mean, the same application is causing an infection as we're putting the fungicide on. But anyway, so we're demonstrating that we can mitigate a lot of that burn. Yeah. Oh, darn it.
That's what
It
happens.
is what it is. So Jim, coming back to, we talk about FlexStar, right? We've seen soybeans where we put Boost and FlexStar together and we don't see any burn. I had a guy call me up from Chatfield, Minnesota, and he sprayed, he actually took the time to strip his field, spraying FlexStar, come back, put Boost in with it, and spray it. And there was strips out there, and he said, yeah, I need one of your support guys to come out here, we got problem. Or my weeds aren't dying. Weeds aren't dying, right? And I went out there and we looked and we started cutting weeds open, and sure enough, all the weeds were absolutely dry inside. They were dying, but we've been trained to think that when you spray FlexStar or a product of that nature, a burner product, we need to see some kind of crop damage to know it worked, right? That's part of the reason what FlexStar does is cause a little bit of flesh damage as well. That's not the way it kills necessarily the plant, but we see that. And so we went out there, and sure enough, this plant that had the Boost on it with the FlexStar didn't skip a beat, kept growing the next day. Where again, we kind of ruined its solar panels for a little bit. Had to get over that, metabolize what happened, and then start growing again. So that was a pretty interesting deal we had. So this is some pictures Tim took, Boost on top of the leaf, and then where we didn't put the Boost a week or so later, that's FlexStar burn. You could argue that's disease right there.
It is disease following a 90-foot bite.
And so those are some of the things we can do when we add a carbon source to our product. So this is FlexStar. Later
Hit
stage.
it again. Have you guys tried this? Have you seen this? I mean, you just know you like the product, you don't turn it off, right? I mean, did you challenge this ever and just put it with the chemical pass and see if there's a reduction in physical injury, and yet we don't skip a beat on the weed control.
Is that a gallon?
That's a 2-gallon rate.
Those are guys that did 2 gallons. Now they did everything in their adjuvant tank mix, follow the right order, and we don't go off script. You talk to some people that go off script, and these are on script. That's Illinois and Beatrice, Nebraska. So there we're in central Illinois, and I did these. I got a lot of pictures like this. I did these because you're going to see our V3 and R3 for our study. We chose those rates because that's when your sprayers are making tracks. We didn't choose those because those are the optimal timing for foliar nutrition. That's not
2 gallons an acre.
2 gallons, yeah.
So there's a million ways we could test Boost, and kind of the way we judge how we're going to test it is what you guys are looking to test. What do you guys want to see? And so in Boost, we talk about layering that furrow with initial energy source. Let's get that plant out of the ground. But not everyone is planting soybeans with a corn planter or a piece of equipment that has in furrow. A lot of guys using seeders. And so something that's a little bit more relatable to most of the farmers out there is going through the sprayer, right? And so that's kind of what we've taken initiative to test is let's test different timings with Boost through the sprayer. We got that typical V3 timing. These aren't specific times like we know there's something crazy happening in the plant, physiological, and we need to get it on here. These are timings when that sprayer is running through. You're going over it with a herbicide, or you're going over it with a fungicide. And so in a 2-year study so far, and we got 1 more year left, what we did is we just took 2 gallons of Boost and sprayed it over the top of the soybean crop, V3, R3, and then we did R3 and V3 just to see what happened. And what we found the first year is there statistically is no difference in picking that time frame. All we know is we saw a pretty healthy increase in yield. And I don't know if I have year 2. That's 17. So from a 51.5 to somewhere around a 57 bushel yield, we picked up a healthy 4.5, 5 bushel. And that was replicated, 2 gallons. And so what are we doing here? We're not feeding it more nutrients. It's a 403. We're not talking nutrients here. The way I look at this and the way I talk about it is we are bridging the gaps of energy, right? We know that plant is a sugar factory. That's what it's doing. It's taking the sun and it's creating sugar. And what happens when we ding it with some herbicide, or it has a bad day because the sun isn't shining, or there's too much water on the ground, or we're suffocating, right? We don't have that efficient production of energy. And so if we can bridge that gap with applications across the season with a high energy source product, we can kind of claim that Boost is one of the highest energy products out there in terms of total calories. And so that's what we're starting to see. That's why it doesn't matter what the timing is. It's just whenever you can get that on, add an energy supplement. So 2-year study, you guys see that in the back of this sheet right here. We're pretty excited about that information too, because it's not easy to boost soybean yields. Pretty biological crop, and you can't just throw inputs at it and get a good ROI out of it.
What are good yields here in Minnesota versus Iowa? I heard some, what'd you guys say, 50, 60, 70, 80? What are good yields here?
This is
Not a lot, 70, 80s. All right. So, because people come to me and they say, 2018, it's right here, we dropped yield, right? In Clarion, they don't know how to grow beans. The soils aren't really conducive to growing soybeans. I don't know their program, their soil tests, I don't get any of that, but, because of a crappy year, we dropped down to 40-some bushel. But looking at statistically speaking, when you average out both years, this is where I'm going to tell you to do it. You think the guy selling you Boost wants you to sell, just wants to sell more. But our best customers, and I think someone asked me, you had a question about, when can you overdo it and when should you stop? Or I got customers that every time the sprayer moves, they throw it in. So if you have 2 gallons of coverage, this is what it's about, folks. It's about this. Half gallon, gallon. I never heard any big reviews that people go, oh, that Boost is the best thing ever. The guys who were the morons, they kept saying, I can see it. I'll show you. And this data is really conclusive because it's showing that you're not crazy. So 2 gallons of coverage, early and late. And if you average out both years, that one won, early and late. Okay? Sometimes, guess what? Late don't happen. Right? And those are different growth stages in those plants. So just like a corn plant, it's kind of determining what it can do early on. But different from a corn plant, it's trying to take the stress off and extend the reproductive window. You saw R1 on a study that looked good, and you saw R3 that looked good. So if you're a bean farmer, it doesn't matter what bean it is, this is a great product to keep the stress off that plant. I know that people say if you stress your beans, they'll yield more. Do you agree with that? Do we agree with that logic? Because there's a growing stage in Iowa when you drive I-80. I call it the bronze stage of growth. Sprayer. I had a guy one time that heard that Kip Keller's put Cobra on, and he had no nutrients in his soil test. And I said, dude, you don't need to put Cobra on. You need to buy some nutrients. He's like, I'm going to grow some short beans, yield better than tall beans. I said, no beans don't yield.
Quick disclaimer too, if you're running a dicamba program.
Yeah, we're not on their list. We're not on their list. We don't want to know about it.
Not on their list, yes. Don't put us with that.
This is a feed meeting. Okay, so tomorrow I'm in Sioux Center. And for you folks that say 50 and 40 bushel yield, yeah, I can put 7 bushel. That's I farm up here. I'm not with those folks, right? There's 5 testimonies tomorrow that'll be on the screen tomorrow. This is Sioux Center, Iowa. 80 and 75. This is not good research because it's not replicated, but this is how farmers go split a field somewhere. And then they get a guy sorting the data and say, clean that up like your team can do, and say, I don't care what you say, there's a line out there I keep crossing. This is why you can do this with Precision Ag. You can figure it out real quick. So I tell you what, this is a lot of ammunition for us. That picture's real. And you guys can take pictures on your own farms. So let's get into the adjuvant market real quick. Does Boost come in a box with a sprayer sticker on the side? And you get a pallet discount quantity if you get the whole pallet? We price Boost in the tanker quantity, didn't we? And there will be companies looking at that saying, that's a better drift control product than that stuff I'm buying in that jug. That's got better corn sorb technology. Look, all these check marks in adjuvants, this product matches up with it. We're just a feed company developing a fertilizer product. We still haven't figured out how to get through BASF on their approved list. We're in a wind tunnel and volatilization study right now in North Carolina with them. So maybe by the time spring rolls around, before June 20th, it'll be added to the list. But the reason they don't add it, I'll just tell you straight up. They look at the label and they say ammonium sulfate, can't do that. Have you watched this list in the last 2 years? Because, I was so excited. We're killing it with Roundup and Liberty, and along comes, here we go again. Guys, we're putting it in their mix, no big deal, right? this was the first time we had to put the brakes on and watch what we're doing. So that list, if you go back 2 years ago, when did they finally come out and say they were going to have tank-approved partners? Did you track that? It was like, don't add anything to this chemical. And at the very last hour, because they were cutting their distribution throat, oh, yeah, you can add this, you can add, look how many got added very late. You know what I'm talking about. You can add stuff to dicamba, add this, add that. Because the ammonium sulfate creates volatility, and I'll guarantee you that ammonium sulfate in molasses does not, they won't even smell it for us, you know. So you tell me, are you going to be using dicamba in 2 or 3 years? Because then we'll make the change. He's like, I got it. We didn't design this for the adjuvant market, but you know that you've sprayed it and you've seen some characteristics. It's compatible. There's intakes. It's a droplet on the leaf that doesn't dry out, and obviously it's drift control. So here's some data from River Valley Co-op over on the Illinois-Iowa border. This young agronomist is aspiring to be a Winfield person. She said, look, my dad sprayed it on all those replications. Those are big. This is a 4,000 acre farm where they're going with sprayer tracks, and the grain cart's calibrated to that. She said a couple gallons of boost, 4 bushel. I'm going to tell you on your corn, just go 1 gallon with your Roundup Pass. Have you done that? No brainer. Drift control, yep, that's actually boost coming out the back end of that sprayer. Dr. Krieger said you got yourself a drift control product. What's interesting is when you look at C is different from B is different from A, 2 gallons was statistically better than 1 gallon. Okay, so it just holds the droplet together. Not something we were looking for. I'm going to show you how fast I can run. I'm running beside the sprayer.
Now see what's coming out of the sprayer.
Your neighbors know you're spraying boost, don't they, when they see it, right? Are they talking? Like, what's that stuff you're doing? This one is probably shot with a flip phone. It's a little bit more amateur. But look at this guy. Hang in there. There's going to be an award, by the way. I think we should do an award for whoever has the best video for next year. Just be patient. Hang in there. Don't panic. It's just... What's wrong with you people? That's a farmer. Send that to my phone. 1034.0, Dan, real quick here.
So we know 1034.0 is a fairly used product down here. So we're going to go over the base of that right away. And so 2015, that's where we started. We didn't start with some crazy high ortho product. We started with what are the growers going to use. And so we went to Dr. Belo's research farm. He kind of told us what guys will use, and that's what we want to start with. You can argue back and forth if 1034.0 is a great product for starter or not, but it's what growers are using. So let's work with it. So we picked a rate, 3 gallons an acre, and we did a study with just a 1034.0 standalone, 1034.0 with a gallon of boost. This is a $10 program right here, and we wanted to see if we could do anything with it. So that's Fred standing in the corn. 2015, control, 275 bushel corn. How do you add to that with a starter? That's a good start right there. 3 gallons picked up 2 bushel. Not really enough to push guys to throw a big setup on their planter and slow them down, right? Tim said that a lot of the guys in the I-States, they're so efficient now, they can get 75% of their corn planted in 4 days. They don't anything like this slowing them down.
That's not me, that's what they're reporting. When they go in Illinois, they can get it done in 4 days.
They move.
Nobody has time to put liquid on it.
Move. And there's a good
I think they forget to put seed in there.
And for 2 bushels, there's no good reason to slow the planter down.
No, it loses money. I thought when we had this, we're going to go all over Illinois and sell fertilizer. And you know what they told us? We don't use starters and we don't use 1034.0.
2 variable.
That's 278 bushel corn. They don't pay. We don't use starters. Go to Minnesota. It's colder up there.
So when we added a gallon boost, we're at a pretty low rate of nutrients in furrow anyway, so we're not going to take boost out of a 3 gallon mix. So we add a gallon of boost on top of that. We picked up 8 over the control, 5 over the check. So what do? We didn't add more nutrients. We just made those nutrients more efficient. We got more room in the plant, working with biology. Simple as that.
Right. This is okay. You did that back in 15. Can you repeat it? So we got Real Farm Research, Precision Ag Research, and we're just showing you from South Dakota to Iowa, the trend is always the same, red, blue, boost. We did it in Greenbush. The guy said, look, this isn't DeKalb and Champaign, red, blue, boost. Now those yields in Clarion are not big ROIs, but the ones in South Dakota are really good. And you can see that it's, as you put more fertilizer on, well, if you can get away with more fertilizer and do it safely, it works better. So you see 5 gallons beat 3, but every time we put a gallon booster in, it's good.
Their history ground or just commercial fertilizers?
I don't know if there was livestock involved back in the day, but there's no hog barn next to Clarion where he's at. There's pig ground. I don't know. Here's 2x2.
So 2x2 on a pretty good sized farmer-driven test plot on Target Ag, adding boost to their 1034.0 zinc mix 2x2. They're going on at 10 gallons. The check is 166. They're getting a pretty good return with 10 gallons in zinc. Add a little bit of carbon, a little bit of energy. We're able to pull a little bit more out of that.
That's Missouri.
Leonard, Missouri, 2017. And there's a cool picture.
That's just a picture. You look at it and you see where you put the 1034 versus 1034 boost.
Talk about it. Go back to the animal feed side.
Let's speed it up a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll get done. So the monopotassium phosphate, we're going to get into that part on 721.3. The guy who exposed me to this fertilizer material was named Wally. His name is Wally Gers. Wally Gers is from Iowa, and he took a job with a guy named Don Schrieffer when he was real young. He said, you know what, I'm going to go start a business with him. And Don Schrieffer, actually another ruminant nutritionist, dairy, he was kind of a guy ahead of his time. He says, let's do row support. Let's put our fertilizers here before they had, totally tubular or banjo, And they've been a big promoter of molasses and get your fertilizers performing more like, plant health biology. So this quote is really good because if you got baby calves or you buy a set of calves to feed, you can trace it back to the IgG level in their blood in the first 8 hours before gut closure, right? 100% passive immunity transferred. So I like this analogy because Don Schrieffer is saying your fertilizer's got to perform like colostrum. You need to build plant health, not just crop removal in 30 days. So he's got a couple good books. He's not alive today, but these have lived on. These are not, like the fringe and weird. These guys are he's very grounded, very sound science. If your kids haven't read this and they're in college, read these. So that's one of my first customers when we were, experimenting with these liquid fertilizers from QLF. I worked for a company called Midwestern Bioag, and they taught me the difference between different fertilizer sources and how they interact with soil health and biology. And this is a guy that's doing strip till. Got a Don strip till. He puts down 300 to 400 pounds of a dry fertilizer blend. It's made up of MAP, rock phosphate, potassium sulfate, K-Meg, humical, homogenized trace minerals. It's not your stuff that you just get uptown. It's expensive. And the only way you sell expensive fertilizer for 6 years is to prove it works. Alright? I don't have that argument with anybody. It's just got to work. Now, here's the deal. You think you got better odds of throwing it here or here with that expensive fertilizer? Any fertilizer. But when you concentrate the problem, just ask Kevin King from Soil Warrior. He said, you just concentrated the problem. Right? So I started selling dry against liquid, folks. And I saw the effects of what colostrum does. That's what I call it. So LCBF 721.3, it's got enough energy as if you were putting a gallon of boost if you get 5 gallons of coverage. And when I did a replicated trial where I put 3 40s together, that's how we farm in Wisconsin. We put 40s together, not quarter sections. We took Nutriflow, Nature's, AgroLiquid, and I wrote them a nice letter and said, I propose to take 4 gallons of your product and 1 gallon of boost against 5 gallons of your product. And they said, no way, not interested. You just cut 20% of our sales. Fine, we'll go 4 gallons of your product with a gallon of boost against 4 gallons of product with a gallon of water. Is that fair? Fine. And we counted the AV lines, and it was like my friend Bill Erlinger said, I'm showing up with 5 totes. He goes, how long is this going to take us plant corn? He's kind of semi-retired, has 3 planters, and he starts at 10 and finishes at 3. He's earned the right, okay? He said, I'll do these trials with you. So I mean, it took a day to put one toad in, take it out, and then replicate it, count 4 lines over, and said turn, plant, turn, plant. And the good news is at the end, the jigsaw puzzle came together. That's really hard to do replicated trials like that with RTK. But anyway, I'll point this out because it's on our tech sheet when we sell 723. These are not paid actors. This is dry fertilizer in a 4-inch band put down with a Dawn strip till bar and a Montague cart. And the difference is the liquid pop-up. That kind of made me, there's something to this. So we talk about premium orthophosphate, uniform emergence, proven nutrient accumulation, and the best part about our large roots is there's more biology living around them. Now, why would I take and show you a picture of sugar beets? I showed this to the Louisiana cane growers that we were helping sugar beets, and they did not smile the whole time. I said, we're taking your molasses and selling it to the beet grower. Like, isn't that cool? Like, we don't want you to help those guys. So, if you take 1030-4-0 and 721-3, we're going to treat one with boost, and obviously we got a carbon already in our 721-3, and we're going to do what's called a relay. In corn world, it would be in furrow and 2x2. Anybody doing that? You're feeding this root zone, and your nodal roots are jumping to this. It's like a second stage of boosters on a rocket ship. Anyway. If you had Rhizoctonia living in your soybean field, you'd pay attention right now. Because the root crops, this is what takes the casualties. Potatoes, carrots. Rhizoc's a big deal. This is where it's going to get weird. Because monopotassium phosphate is registered by the EPA. And when we buy containers from China through a company called Lidochem, we let them negotiate with China or Israel. And then we let Trump try to do the tariff thing, which jacked our price, folks. The price went up, sorry. Outside, it's imported. It's okay, we'll be alright. We did not expect to see a reduction in disease. And it wasn't just boost. Now you tell me 2 years in a row, when you count the casualties from Rhizoctonia, what we have here is we have 2 gallons in furrow with like 7 gallons 2x2. That's called the relay. Here we just have 2x2. Here we have 1030-4-0 in furrow and 2x2. Here we just have 2x2. You notice when we went from here and added boost that we had a reduction in casualties, death by Rhizoctonia. What I want to ask our field research agronomists, how do you average out to 0? Michigan State University. How does a university professor end up with 0? It's replicated. I'm still quantity. Help me out here, folks. When you take 0 plus 1, what's the average? Something. 2 years in a row, we saw no death. So I want to tell you that the MKP product, it isn't smoke and mirrors. It isn't just different from your phosphate KOH reactions. It's for real. And when we bought it, we didn't want to do major exothermic reactions in the feed plant because the feed guys would run and cry because the tank's shaking and it's hot. Right? So we took a 05234 and we melted it down and put it with polyphosphate. And those of you that dissolved MKP, you need to work with a chemist to figure out how to get a lot more dissolved. It's a great product. They did not react with each other. And here's the part we didn't intend. 3 years later, we've tried the Simplots, the Potash Corp, the Natures. We've tried all those chemistries. This is the only one that didn't turn to Jello after aging it. You guys carrying any 721-3 over? Nobody's using it? Should try it. It works well with molasses. Isn't that the goal here? Is we're trying to take a carbon-based approach? So this young sales agronomist, she's got a beet grower over in the thumb of Michigan that likes her because she knew him when she was showing cattle or something when she was little. And he said, you know what? Chelsea, do whatever you want in that beet field. So she threw everything but the kitchen sink at it. She threw our 721-3 at 5 gallons in furrow. She hit it with that seaweed extract. Every time they went across with a crop protection, insecticide, fungicide, whatever, they put boost in. And of course the nitrogen had boost. And here's the funny part. This guy's a Conklin dealer. Okay? And he let her do that. And in Michigan, it did not rain. And this is where I need Michael's drone flying at 1,000 feet and saying that this field was the only thing that had leaves standing up. You know what beets do when they get sorry? Feel bad? They go like this. Every field around this guy was like, that one is the most talked about. So we got this MSU data. and the only thing the farmers want to talk about is what this dude's doing. You know, isn't it funny how we take the university data or we take independent data and then they say, yeah, but what he get on his farm? I've only stepped foot in 2 beet fields. They think I'm an idiot. I said, this looks like tobacco. And a guy goes, you had leaves the size of tobacco? So let's go to Dr. Fred Beal because he tested MKP and Boost, and here's the part you got to look at. It's called nutrient accumulation. That's his quote. And MKP was hidden in those trials right before your eyes as 721.3 was being built. Yeah, it's better than your polyphosphate. That's MKP plus ATP. That's what 624.6 MKP is. But this is the part I really like. Fred Beal said at V6 whole plant, we had proven nutrient accumulation. That's university. And this is the part where we should have ended the trial. 10.14.1, that was our old one, right? 624.6 MKP, 721.3 MKP. It goes from 3 to 5 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 5. You know, it's more product, more coverage, and that was the heaviest and tallest plant at Champaign. Cutting it for silage at V6. Isn't that really good testimony? Let's just weigh the whole plant and see who's bigger at that stage. This is an oldie but a goodie. See, when someone said, I used to like 10.41 better than 721.3 MKP, I said, you don't understand. Look at that was statistically separated from the other one. It's a winner. This is Northern Illinois, Minnesota. This is going against Riser and Accomplish. $1.50 a head. Proven nutrient weight advantage and nutrient accumulation. This is 717.3 Riser and 1034 against 721.3 MKP. And this is what we get. You guys put the information in the combine. You notice how many hybrids are named QLF nowadays? That's how you enter it in. This was 4 bushel. This was mile-long checks. And it was, it wasn't about who was cheaper, but the guy wants to do carbon-based approach. I mean, look at his corn behind him. There's a feed guy posing as an agronomy guy. And behind Kurt Lahr, he likes the uniformity of his deal. So we're just going to go ahead and do one more thing here. This is actually on a farm in Wisconsin that does 2x2 dry. And we see this uniformity going across like this with the pop-up. And that was significantly better against some leading products. Again, with the dry 2x2, but statistically better on dry down. This is against United Suppliers, Nutriflow. We had a separation in dry down. So give me some fresh stuff. You guys still getting her done? Clarion, Iowa did it again. There you have 1034.03 gallons. Plus a gallon of Boost, 204 to 202. This is Clarion. You don't get a lot of yields on pop-up in Iowa. Some people say they give up on them, right? 3 gallons and 5 gallons. South Dakota. There it is. By the way, you know what X622.4 is? It's an experimental. It's our own product working against us. It's no MKP. It's a 624.6 with Boost.
Did you have any base soil test levels?
I think Greg has some base soil tests he can come up with. He's supposed to take them before and after.
I'd just be interested to see if you got a response on high or very high.
Yeah, this is a big one in South Dakota. We got a lot of headerite colonies that are going. I think they're bottling the Boost and serving it to everybody. I don't know what's going on. But let's just look at this picture, and then Michael has a wheat deal, and then we'll wrap it up and be done. Okay, I appreciate the time. If you don't go to your plots and you just wait for Fred Beal to send you the data, you're going to miss what's happening in your field. You see, because in Illinois, if you don't get rain, it's a 40 bushel swing, and everybody gets what everybody else gets. You don't want to get what your neighbor gets, or you won't be in business, right? Look at the difference in stress when those two options line up next to each other. You got the same chemistry except one's brown. And that to me is why this sets us apart from other fertilizers. So Michael's going to show you this crazy farmer's edge photography on wheat and say, why are you preaching wheat? We don't grow wheat. This is pretty crazy.
So this one gets me really excited. I don't know how many people actually grow wheat in here. And it doesn't really matter because plant health is plant health across all types of vegetation. So what we're looking at is a cleaned up set of yield data from up north, up by Greenbush, and there's a lot of wheat growing up there. Spring wheat, drier environment, a lot less water. This is their crop. So this farmer, we're going to move over to this guy right here. So wheat planted. This is a good farmer. He's following the Phil Needham complex Cadillac program for spring wheat. They want high bushel. They're shooting for 100 bushel every year, 100 bushel spring wheat, and so he's doing everything right. The only difference on one side or the other is he's got his seeder rigged up for liquid. I don't know too many people that have that. There's 72 rows that he has to run to run tubes down. Anyway, he's running 5 gallons of 721.3 down the tube right in furrow. Everything else is the same, and he's got Farmer's Edge, and he's getting his phone pinged with satellite imagery. He said, "Hey, you guys got to get up here. We got some kind of crop formation going on. I don't know what's going on." And so we go up there and we fly the drone, and it's me and Kurt Lahr, our feed guy, and the farmer, and we look at this image and we're like, "Holy crap! Like, is there a 6-foot difference here?" Where we couldn't find it. We literally had to count the sprayer tracks in this field to find where this crop formation was starting. Here's what it looked like. And there wasn't a lot of difference in height. We have a lot more tillers and we have more seeds per head. And so what this turned into on the yield map was pretty crazy. It mirrored what we're seeing here. And the reason why this doesn't really matter if it's wheat or corn or any other grass crop or whatever crop is this is plant health. I mean, you look at the left side, Jim and his team of precision guys, they could make a soil map off of that. We're seeing where's the light soil, where's the...
You guys see the dry parts of the field there, and it stops right at the line.
Right there. And then all of a sudden
that's the gravel line in the field.
And then it's even. What's happening? We got some plant health going on. We got going back to the idea of mucilage holding more water, 10 times more water in capabilities. We have a microenvironment under that plant, and we're able to keep that plant factory going. Now, this didn't yield 100 bushel. It was a bad year up there for them. There was a drought. But the difference was 20, 25 bushel. The only thing different was the starter. 5 gallons of 721.3. So this was really cool. And this is probably one of the far out, crazy top things. But
you know how we ended up with this piece of data? That's where Joe Melby ran out.
He put it on his corn and he ran out on his wheat.
I asked the customer, I said, "Why are you still testing the starter? Like, you liked it." He goes, "I ran out." We call him up. I'll give you his phone number. It's just crazy how things happen when you guys make a mistake. And then we're like, "Oh, we planned this perfectly." I thought he split a field. He was trying to like, "Oh, would you test this against this year?" You know? He goes, "You're kind of greedy. You know, I buy all this fertilizer from in." He says, "I ran out." It just blew my mind. So I love showing this in corn country because the thing that blows my mind is how uniform it is from fence row to fence row. We added these pop-ups to our dry 2x2, and you see the uniformity improve. So that just to me is like, there's something going on here.
So in 2019 up here, there's 2 more 60-foot air seeders getting liquid put on them. And the farmer, their neighbors are thinking, you're either crazy or you know something we don't. So we're making a little bit, we're rocking the boat a little bit. We're making some waves in the water. And so this is the kind of stuff that pushes us forward into areas that we didn't know we had capabilities.
I think we're going to pause it for both questions.
Yeah, question. We could stop here. I was told 2 hours is kind of the max. Doesn't matter what we feed you. We feed you a whole pig.
It'll be. The
2
next
hours.
session starts in 15 minutes. And we'll be passing a clipboard. You guys can get continuing education credits for this.
Seriously?
I mean, it's pretty fun. There's a lot of stuff going on here, but if you guys have questions, because you already used the products and you just want to figure out some stuff for next year, I mean, Michael's available in your area. You've all met him. You know, Jim and Tim, and who else in the feed department selling fertilizer? Yeah. You got some work to do here. So any questions? I mean, anything goes.
I suppose for those that don't know, we do have a equipment rebate program.
Anybody participate in that? It's really fun to bring the farmer a check and say, "You were right, you promised. You said you were going to bring me some money back." So we'll do 5 years at $20 a ton. So you got to finish the first contract before you start another. Let's say you trade planters, you want to put a surefire system on, they're now part of our rebate program. You want to put it on yourself, you can mail order it through Excel. But we're trying to get it set up because if you want to run more boost, you can't just use 20-something orifices, okay? And there's limitations to this. We do a good job of cleaning it up and making it consistent, but don't run it through 100 mesh screens. Don't run it through 80 mesh screens. 50, small enough. And 30 everywhere else on your farm other than your sprayer. That's what I like. So this equipment rebate program has been huge because we've got a lot of customers that said, hey, this is for you. You want to get a different size screen or set up a 6250 tank. You can work on your, this is a program. We don't sign contracts. We just say if you can continue to consume our product for 5 years, you're going to get a check cut with your name on it directly from QLF manufacturer.
This program's bought a lot of tanks, a lot of transfer pumps, a lot of anything that liquid runs with.
And most of us are farm deliveries, right? So we kind of need you guys to set up your